Let's go to the last section of this your daily broadcast with cool news, crazy news, bad news, all of it. Let's watch some other videos, shocking videos from another region of our beautiful Latin America.
Todo mundo tem que sair. Tem que virar a cidade de Deus da vida, essa porra. Assim vai acabar esse caralho.
Chegou o outro lá.
So what we're seeing here is members, alleged members, of what it's called the Comando Vermelho, Red Commando in Brazil. This happened in Brazil, in one of the most popular cities, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This is the backlash from alleged members of this commando in one of the favelas against the Brazilian National Police. They literally threw grenades and Molotov cocktails against these vehicles until they absolutely destroyed them, trying to stop them from coming in further into the favelas. Weeks earlier, they had killed a man called David Odilon Carvalho de Oliveira. He was allegedly one of the leaders for the Comando Vermelho operating at this favela in Rio de Janeiro. The Comando Vermelho, it's a crazy and interesting organization. First of all, because Brazil seems to be a region that has nothing to do with Latin America, but at the same time, it does. Most recently, the one of the candidates for the Brazilian presidency wanted to take kind of like the U.S. First Amendment in place, right? Everybody should arm themselves, which is interesting. An interesting approach. It got very popular for that. Didn't end up happening. But then again, it's probably a solution. Would that be a solution in places like Brazil or Mexico? Brazil has a widespread violence as well. Presence of different criminal organizations that are working with other criminal organizations in Paraguay and indirectly connected to Mexican drug cartels, but not directly. I think Mexican drug cartels haven't yet found a particular interest or strong interest in the Brazil region, but in places like Paraguay, Ecuador, Uruguay, Costa Rica, they're finding some more interesting and then showing up with more power. Now, Comando Vermelho is interesting because it formed back in the 70s. They're fighting mostly the PCC, which is another of the criminal organizations operating there. But the Comando Vermelho has a mix of street gang members, of drug traffickers, but also some former guerrilla members of a communist guerrilla group formed during the 60s and that ended up on this criminal organization. They do have some heavy fucking weaponry right there, and it's probably not coming from the US. This is probably coming mostly from Europe and other South American countries. Now, the video, I think it's interesting because it shows that a region that we seldom speak about is also having or putting heavy violence against their own military police. Now, the difference is that most of these criminal organizations are still labeled gangs and probably not cartels, but they are settled in slums, right, in these favelas. They are, for the most part, outcast, where in Mexico, they're among us. Mexico and the U.S., because a lot of them live in the U.S. This is where they get their weapons and this is where they get their connections, right?